In the Money is made possible by financial support from Old National Bank and Chicagoans like you. Thank you.
Good evening, Chicago, and welcome to In the Money. I'm your host, Tamara Durbin, and I'm so glad you're joining us tonight. In the Chicago area, housing takes up about 34% of the average household's budget, which is a little larger than the national average of 33%. For renters, the numbers are even more challenging. Nearly half are spending over 30% of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. That means less money for things like savings, groceries, or even a night out. It's clear that housing costs can be a major strain on personal finances for many people in our city. In addition, Chicago families spend about 14% of their budget on food, which is slightly higher than the national average. And let's be honest, how many of us have looked at our food spending and thought, where did all that money go? Nearly 40% of people say food costs regularly wreck their budget. With grocery prices climbing and the ease of grabbing takeout or ordering from Uber Eats or Grubhub, it's no surprise that food expenses can quickly get out of hand and throw off even the best financial plans. These numbers really show why it's so important to plan ahead and budget carefully for housing and food. When you take control of these big expenses, you free up money for the things that matter, like building savings, investing in your future, and even treating yourself to something fun while keeping your finances on solid ground. In this week's episode, we'll explore practical strategies to help you navigate these significant budget categories. I'll head out in real life to connect with professionals in the housing and food industries to provide practical tips to manage these costs without sacrificing your financial stability or quality of life. By the end of this episode, I hope you'll feel empowered to take control of your housing and food budgets, enabling you to live comfortably and stay in the money. After the break, I'll go out in real life to sit down with real estate broker and investor E.J. Williams to discuss how to plan for housing costs as a key part of your budget. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Robin Robinson. This week on In Other News, I'm joined by Nicole Coco Davis, fierce founder of the Talk to Me Foundation and awe-inspiring advocate of incarcerated women and their children. Hear her story of overcoming the injustices of the justice system. Don't miss In Other News on CAN-TV, cable channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Hyperlocal news and critical analysis. Experience the power of community television.
On this episode of In the Money, we're talking about housing and food costs. And of course, I had to have the real estate queen come on and talk about housing costs. In our opening of this episode, I talked about how housing costs is about 30% of people's budgets. Mm-hmm. And for some people, based on other obligations they have, that 30% can be daunting to their household budgets. How do you guide them to help them to plan effectively for this significant expense in their budgets?
Well, I tell them they really have to have a clear idea of what is realistic for them. I said the last thing you want is to be rich, house rich, and pocket poor.
Yes.
Right? In particular, when you are renting, there are two different guidelines that you look at when you're renting as opposed to buying. So for renting, I tell people maybe not go over 3 times your income. That should be about your affordability. For people who have a lot more expenses, I try to stay at the 2.5 mark. Don't get so caught up on what you want the place to look like. You want to be able to make sure that you can afford the place. When it comes to, buying a place, your lender will particularly give you an idea of what you can afford. Don't take the max, because there's going to be some other expenses that come.
Say that again, because people really don't understand. Like,
Yes.
lenders will tell you can afford $500,000,
Right.
based on obligations that they don't even know about.
Right.
So that's really important. They know like what the actual monthly payment that they can really afford.
Because you can absolutely afford more, but should you go to that max? Because if you're coming from renting, you're a first-time home buyer, whether or not you can afford $1 million home or $500,000, there's going to be some new expenses that you are not used to paying for.
Right now, people are navigating this current housing market,
Yes.
and some people are feeling overwhelmed, whether they are buying or renting. What's the number one piece of advice to navigate this current housing market?
To save and to have an emergency fund. Now, if you're renting, you don't have to worry about, miscellaneous maintenance expenses. You're not paying for, the clogged toilet and things like that. The owner is going to take care of those type of things. But when you're the owner and your heat is not working or something goes out in the middle of the night, that's your expense, right? So I always advise homeowners to have a home fund. Not your current savings, something that's different, especially if you're buying a home that's a little bit older. There's going to be some things that come up. And those expenses can be in the thousands of dollars. And if you don't have that, that could be a really big problem for you.
Emergency savings.
Yes. Yes.
So let's talk about market trends here in our Chicago local area. Looking specifically at the Chicago housing market, how much have you seen housing prices rise each year? What do you say the average is?
Typically in Chicago, it's about 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5% that you're seeing year over year, an increase in home values and market rates. But I would say post-pandemic, those expenses have gone a little bit higher. But I would say in the Chicago market, since about 2023, you've seen some stabilization, and I'm seeing more in my market that things are cooling down a little bit. But the top of the year, I'm getting more phone calls. People are getting back outside, looking for places. So it's definitely picking up. But yeah, that's about the average, about 3 to 5%.
And when you look at the housing market as it relates to renters versus for sale people, I know in just our conversation, you talked about something that renters should consider about rental prices versus housing prices.
Right.
Can you share that with the viewers?
Well, it depends on what your price point is, because rent is high in Chicago. And I tell people—
Is rent going down?
Rent never goes down, right? That's one thing that goes up steadily with the cost of living. So, your home value can go up and down, but rent pretty much continues to go up year over year. So you just want to think about what you can afford. And again, rent is different. So I'm paying $2,000 in rent. I can afford a $2,000 mortgage. Not the same thing, because that's $2,000 your housing cost. That's it. With the mortgage, are you buying a condo? You're going to have additional assessments that you have to pay every month.
And those go up every year too.
And those go up every year, as you know. Or just, and again, that maintenance stuff that you're not used to paying. So maybe you should be looking at a mortgage that's $1,800 a month, to give yourself a cushion since you're already used to paying that,
And we have some viewers that are looking, you just kind of talked about that slightly, to get into the housing market. How do you advise clients where right now they're looking to get into the housing market? They've heard that supply is low.
It is.
And prices can be higher. How do people, or what advice do you give them on how to consider price in relationship to where interest rates are?
Everybody's situation is so different. I really try to tell people you have to tailor your housing according to your specific affordability.
That's good.
So sometimes we have champagne tastes and beer budgets, right? And in this market, people have gotten so used to the gold standard being condo finishes, no matter where you find this property, and they're putting granite countertops in Inglewood. Absolutely. That's the appetite for buyers there. So you have to just make sure that you are going into it. And also, what your exit strategy? Are you looking to be in this property for 3 years? What is this purchase serving for you? I just want to get my feet wet and find a place and stay in it for a while. Are you then looking, when you sell it, are you looking to build equity? So it's a lot of things. I always have my clients at the exit, because most times you buy a house, it's not going to be your forever home. So if you're only going to be in this house for 5 to 7 years, is your plan to build the equity in this home so that you can take that and then move on to your next place as a down payment to make that more affordable within, what your normal range is right now. So I always look at what the exit is and then find the best property that will help serve that need.
We know there's always unexpected expense. What are some of the most overlooked costs of owning or even renting a home, and how do you help people plan for that?
Right. It just all goes back to money management and saving. And I tell people, look at your lifestyle. I've had a client recently who was able to afford $750,000. She said, no, I want to max at $400,000. She said, I don't desire a place that's just, that's going to be that expensive just because I afford it. She said, I want to be able to travel. So for me, I want to max out at a mortgage that's about $2,000. She said, because I'm only going to be there, half the time anyway. So you have to think about your lifestyle, your life goals, and then how the housing can help you to achieve that. But saving is always the best thing to do. Having a nest egg, having an emergency fund. I can't tell you how many times I even get phone calls from people who are in a pickle because their furnace has gone out. That's a huge expense.
And we know it's cold in Chicago right now.
It is very, very cold in Chicago. So that's something. Have an emergency fund. Put that money aside because that's not something like, oh, I'll get to that down the line. No, you're going to need heat tonight.
Yeah.
So just really planning for that and not biting off more than you can chew.
Yeah, and I remember you also talking about homeowners and even other property owners planning for like regular maintenance on your property.
Right.
How do you counsel people to plan for that?
Yeah, actually, and one of the things I give my buyers when they close is that because if you don't know, you don't know. I haven't been responsible for changing out my filter, so it gives them all of those things to help them. This is what you do every 3 months. This is what you do every 6 months to help keep them on task with making sure that they are keeping those components up to date and running fine, so that you don't have those scares in the middle of the night and that things are going out and not working.
We live in Chicago, and we know our neighborhoods can be very unique.
Yes.
Everyone wants to stay in a safe and comfortable, home, whether they're renting or even buying.
Right.
What hidden gems can you talk about and recommend that are budget friendly, but also comfortable as far as safety?
Well, as a broker, I can't tell someone this is a safe neighborhood. Legally, I'd have to say, hey, it's best for you to look up the demographics of that neighborhood. And there's so many sources out there that you can look up crime rates and issues that are going on there. So do your research in that regard. Some other things I tell people, of course, when we're going out looking at the place, most times it's going to be during the day, right? If you have some concerns, drive by at night. Go by on the weekends. If you happen to be home buying in the spring or summer, early fall, that's the best way to really know what's going on in this market. Because in Chicago, people are inside. You can't see what maybe the foot traffic is in the neighborhood and things like that. That could be a deterrent to some people.
Given where the housing costs are right now, what opportunities would you say exist for people to use this market to actually grow their wealth?
There's a number of opportunities, and it will be based on, again, what your situation. I'm advising a lot of younger buyers that are entering this market, first-time home buyers, maybe single. Think about buying a multifamily because with your mortgage, you can get an FHA or conventional loan and purchase up to 4 units. If you wanted to, and you can live in one unit, rent out the other. So you get a 2-flat or 3-flat, as we call them here, and rent out the others. That will significantly decrease your monthly expenses, meaning your tenants are now paying your mortgage, right? So they are not only paying your mortgage, that means that you're keeping your money to yourself, but then they're also, paying down the principal of your property. But that's the way that you can build wealth through real estate by being a homeowner. I am a big proponent of people owning property.
Oh, I know.
Huge. And finding a way to leverage that as income producing.
I'm Andy Zopp, the host of Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Every week, we gather for insightful conversations with local journalists and community leaders as we discuss the news of the day and how it impacts the lives of Chicagoans. Join the conversation on CAN-TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN-TV Plus app. Hyperlocal news and critical analysis. Experience the power of community television.
let's talk about meal planning. So one of the things that I actually discussed with you is us looking at trying to do a budget of $75 for a family of 4 for 5 days. Do you think meal planning is a cost-effective way to manage your food budget?
Absolutely, meal planning definitely is, because when you plan out what you're going to have, you're less likely to go spend money that you don't have in the store or buy items that you necessarily wouldn't need or will probably waste.
Tell us the process, like when you actually sit down to meal plan, to walk people through what they should actually be doing to do it effectively.
For me, in order to come up with this menu for this week, what I did was I first started by pulling out the sales ad in weekly papers. There is a trend to when things go on sale.
Okay.
So certain pieces of meat, like you may want a chicken breast, but chicken legs might be on sale this week.
Okay.
So it's all chicken. I'm just gonna say,
That's true.
buy what's on sale that week.
Okay.
That's one thing. When it comes to the fruits and vegetables, buy what's in season. If you're gonna get an apple, those are in season now. So they're gonna average around 99 cents a pound. Strawberries are about $4 a pound.
Okay.
So you have to tend to try to want to buy in season. And then when it comes to grains, I would say try to lean towards whole grains, things that are brown. They're going to keep you full, and they're full of fiber, as opposed to the enriched grains where they've taken out all of the vitamins and nutrients.
So we did a family of 4.
Yes.
$75. Were we able to stay in the budget?
Yes. So another way I was able to stay in the budget is the different veggies that I brought, and a lot of the ingredients you'll see are replicated throughout the
I see
week.
that.
However,
But they're different.
They're going to be remixed.
Yeah.
So you'll get to try them in a different way. So beginning off, I started off with 2 proteins. We're
Okay.
going to use chicken, a lean chicken breast. I want to emphasize using lean, 10% or less. And then we also did a ground beef.
One of the things I was thinking about when we were doing this segment is to make the food interchangeable,
Yes.
so that you can spread it out through the week, but also it's not the same thing, because a lot of people, one of the common complaints or reasons why people follow the budget is because they can get easily bored. By day 2, they tired of it. So
I'm they. One, don't be afraid. That's what I'm going to
Okay.
say. Don't be afraid. And you'll see as I walk you through this how easily interchangeable it is. I tried to pick things that were common meals that everyone would have. So our first dish is going to be, the grilled chicken breast, the brown rice, and some mixed veggies.
okay.
Then we also have a stir fry. If you have some, it could be vegetarian, or if you have chicken breast, you can add chicken breast as well. Then we moved on to a stuffed bell pepper.
Okay.
Remember, we're going to use
And
some
it has,
of that
and that
rice.
has the rice in there. So
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then we also have a spaghetti dish. And
Okay.
you'll notice the same
Noodles.
pasta noodles are used for the stir fry.
Sometimes I'll look at Food Network website, but that's only. But is there other places where they could go to say, okay,
So the sites that I tend to use is culinarymedicine.org, because I like to see
it sounds probably healthy
what's
too.
in the food. Yes, and then they have things from appetizers, beverages, side dishes, entrees, everything, and that's a free resource. Also, commonthreads.org. And also start with the recipes you have. Like, try to put your own spin on them. You always want to make sure you have staple pantry items. So things like olive oil, flour, honey, maple syrup. I didn't say sugar, although we need sugar, but I mentioned honey and maple syrup because they have
she's talking about healthy stuff.
They have more nutritional value, but no, I
Okay.
do have sugar at home as
Okay.
well. But things like that you can keep in your pantry, some things that you can keep inside of your fridge would be like, your butter, maybe keep your olive oils on your shelf, but try to keep some of those staples like your
that you can actually
seasonings
make
that
things.
you're gonna use over and over again. And then when it comes to some of the veggies, again, if they're in season, they're gonna be on sale. But you can also get those same veggies either frozen or canned.
Is it better to do fresh, frozen, or canned?
I like them all. I use them all. It just depends on what you're doing.
Let's say we've gone out to one of the sites, and we know, this is what I want to cook for this week. What would be the next step?
So I typically break down my grocery list the same way you break down your plate. So try to make sure your grocery list is half of fruits and vegetables, quarter of protein, and a quarter of whole grains. So when I did that, I started thinking, which proteins are on sale right now? Which ones have good prices?
You went through your list, you made your list based on those areas, and you looked at to see what's on sale.
Yes, and then what items can be used over and over.
What would be a tip or a recommendation or your advice to us to stick to the list so that we can stay on budget?
Well, I'm giving this answer based on trial and error.
Okay.
I do not go to the grocery store hungry, or you will pick up all types of things. I would definitely say make sure you have your list, take in the amount of money you need, and definitely don't go in hungry.
So we did a household of 4.
Yes.
So let's say a person is just a household of 2 or even an individual. What budget range would you say? So we did $75 a household of 4. What would a normal budget for a week look like for possibly a household of 2 or even 1? What should they be targeting?
I say you can do probably $50. And we're referring to dinners.
Yeah,
we're
we're talking
referring
about
to dinners only. I don't want them to say
Yeah.
$50 for all meals all week.
Right.
No. So we're referring to dinners. I think you can get away with $40 or $50 for 1 or 2 people, and then $75 to $80. But also keep in mind that most of the staples and pantry items were there already. I may
Okay.
have picked up a few different items, but things like the soy sauce and stuff like that you may not have at home.
Are there specific items or foods that are good for cooking in bulk and also making it creative so that it multiplies? I know we did chicken and ground beef. Are those 2 really good ones?
Yes.
That are easy to make it interchangeable and also to make it in bulk? Like if you have a family of 4 or you want it to last a whole week.
Yes, and if you notice the way when I plated it, sometimes when we make spaghetti, we'll mix it all together.
Oh yeah.
So if you notice, I just kept them separate, the sauces, so that the sauce can go for either spaghetti, it can either go for the peppers, because
Because
I
typically
mixed
we'll
it up.
put it all together
Yeah.
and then you can't spread it.
And then if
Okay.
you try to freeze it, sometimes the noodles will break up. So I do recommend separating it. That way it can be interchangeable as well.
What's the biggest misconception about meal planning?
It's expensive. I think that's the biggest misconception, that it's expensive, and you'll actually save more money if you do meal prep.
What are some common mistakes people make when they do meal prep?
Buying ingredients that won't stretch across the week. Like, oh, this week I want a dragon fruit, or I want something, that's trending. And it's like, that's not going to
stick to
work
the
across the
staples.
meals. So then it sits in your house, it goes bad. And then you're like, oh, don't meal prep. It's the worst thing ever.
Okay, I'm gonna taste this.
Please do.
I'm gonna taste a little bit. I
Please
said I don't
do.
want to taste too much on camera because I don't want it to look crazy. Y'all know I don't want to. But these green beans are good. They're flavorful too. I have to tell people they look good, but they actually are good, and I can see how they stretch. I thank you for coming up with this menu. If we have viewers, they say, okay, Chef Shawana, I'm ready to go. What's the first thing that you recommend that they do?
Write out your menu.
Write out your menu.
Write out what you want to have. I don't want you to base it off of just, oh, these are on sale, I'm going to try to put something together. I want you to eat things that you actually like.
That's good.
Hi, I'm Robin Robinson. This week on In Other News, I'm joined by Nicole Coco Davis, fierce founder of the Talk to Me Foundation and awe-inspiring advocate of incarcerated women and their children. Hear her story of overcoming the injustices of the justice system. Don't miss In Other News on CAN TV, cable channel 19, or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Hyperlocal news and critical analysis. Experience the power of community television.
Hi everyone, I'm Ben Juergens, Director of Financial Empowerment at Old National Bank. Today we're going to be discussing some crucial aspects of managing essential expenses while still working towards your financial goals. In this episode, we explored how housing and food costs make up a significant portion of any household budget. From my perspective, the key to balancing these essentials while still working towards other financial goals, like savings or investing, lies in creating a well-structured budget. It's important to allocate a specific portion of your income to housing and food, but also ensure that you set aside funds for savings and investments. This way, you can maintain a balance between meeting your immediate needs and securing your financial future. When it comes to managing household and food expenses, some of the most common mistakes that I see people make include overspending on housing and not planning their meals effectively. To avoid these traps, it's essential to set a realistic budget for your housing cost ideally not exceeding 30% of your income. For food expenses, planning your meals in advance and sticking to a grocery list can help you avoid impulse purchases and reduce waste. By being mindful of these areas, you can set yourself up for financial success. For any of you who are feeling overwhelmed by the rising cost of living, one actionable step that you can take today is to track your spending. Start by recording all your expenses for a month to get a clear picture of where your money's actually going, because most people have no idea where their money goes. And once you have this information, you can identify areas where you can cut back and reallocate those funds towards your financial goals. Building a sustainable budget is a continuous process, but taking this first step can help you regain control of your finances and stay on track.
Thanks, Ben. The financial principle is simple. Live on less than you make. Your greatest wealth building tool is your income. So don't tie it up with high rent or a mortgage that leaves no room for anything else. The same goes for food costs. Without a plan, they can easily spiral out of control and become a major drain on your budget. The Book of Wisdom reminds us, a wise person thinks ahead. And that's exactly what planning is. Thinking ahead. Be wise and plan for your housing and food costs. Whether it's choosing a home that leaves space in your budget for your financial goals or taking time to plan meals to avoid unexpected expenses, these small steps can make a big difference. Let me share something personal to encourage you. When my late husband and I were tackling our student loans, we took a hard look at our budget. Housing was our largest expense, and we realized that if we wanted to reach our financial goal of paying off debt, we had to make a bold move. So, we sold our townhome and moved into a more affordable rental. Some people didn't understand, but we were focused on our goal. That decision wasn't easy, but it allowed us to free up money to start to aggressively pay off those loans. And when life happened, as it often does, I was able to go through and still stand here today, student loan debt-free. So, wherever you are in your journey, know this: you can take control of your finances no matter how big or small the adjustment. Housing may take time to change if you're in a lease or you own your home, but food costs are something you can start adjusting today. Here are your action steps from this episode. Number 1, review your spending. Take a close look at where your money is really going, especially your food budget. Number 2, track your expenses regularly. Keep an eye on variable expenses like food, gas, entertainment, and those tempting Amazon and Target purchases. Apps like Empower, Every Dollar, or Good Budget can make it easier. Number 3, be bold and make adjustments. Don't be afraid to make tough choices if they move you closer to your financial goals. Use the tips from today's episode. I challenge you to start a meal plan. Do it for a month. I would love to hear the impact on your budget after even a month. Remember, every step you take today is setting the foundation for a more secure and fulfilling tomorrow. You've got this. Join us next week as we're back in the lab and we go out in real life to discuss taking care of the business of life, taxes, and estate planning. We'll be back with an all-new edition of Money Matters with Ben Juergens. If you have any questions about today's topic or any financial question, send them to me. Email me at tamara@moneybasicsonline.com or follow me on Instagram at IamMoneyBasics. Also, follow my guests on social media. I would love to keep this conversation going, so let's connect. Remember, we are on this journey together to get, stay, and grow in the money. See you next time.